Good afternoon, everyone. This is Joyce Cook with Bob Hester and Ira Stevens. This is the Sobering Truths podcast, and today we are going to talk about some of the horrific accidents that have happened through drunk driving. And Iris, you were going to talk about a young lady that came over here from another country, and
Yeah, I
she
think y'all have the pictures of that.
I do. Let's see. Oh,
Yeah, she came from South America, I think, and was only here for not very long. And she, got run into by a drunk driver, and she burned up basically in the vehicle. And it took $5 million to get her put back together again.
there's
And
her
of course,
picture.
yeah, you got a picture, a before and after picture of
Yes,
her.
she was a beautiful young lady.
hmm And she died at age 40 from cancer. And I have speculated that some of that might have been all of the medications and stuff that she had to take for them to um, keep her alive, to get her back together again, because 40 is young. Of course, once you have been that badly burned, you have some pretty serious health situations anyway. But
Absolutely.
this is what drunk drivers do.
This is the ugly face of what driving can do. And they sell the alcohol companies. They uh, sell it to us as you're going to be beautiful and have friends and popular and yada yada yada. But
And I wonder
just
how much they contributed to her health care after, the guy that hit her was using their product.
I wonder if all these people who manufacture and sell alcohol, whether it's on a local level, national level, whatever, would maybe change their tune about that if this was their daughter.
that's right, Bob. And it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot of alcohol. I've got up the blood alcohol content, and I think down here at 0.08, that's the standard that
Right.
they can arrest a
Right.
person. But look here, at 0.02, at this percentage, you may experience an altered mood, relaxation, and a slight loss of judgment. And at 0.05, at this percentage, you may feel uninhibited and have lowered alertness and impaired judgment. Would any of you want a bus driver or somebody driving your car with your children in it at those altered states? I wouldn't,
Under no circumstance.
and I wouldn't think that the alcohol company executives would either. But they may be
Not if
silly
it's
enough
their
to think
relatives
that.
that get hit.
Oh yeah, then it's a different story, or it's it's the masses that don't matter. They just care about the dollar
As long as
signs.
they can get money in their pocket and get rich or whatever, they could care less about what it does to society. That's obvious.
And could you all were coming from Tennessee and had a near fatal accident, and if it hadn't been
Yeah,
for God protecting you, can
that
y'all tell about
absolutely.
that?
That was it was Bob and Debbie and I, and Debbie Pelly, of course, was our partner in crime. She taught at Westside, and she had one of the students who did the West Side shooting in class. It was eighth grade, so he was about 13. It was Mitch Johnson, and she told how he had changed over the year that she had had him, from when he first came in and he was a sweet little boy and everything was, the way an eighth grader ought to be. And by the time that he had done this shooting, he had totally changed his attitude, his behavior. And so she started asking his friends what had happened. And they had told her that he had gotten involved in the rap music, violent rap music, and apparently the violent video games. And it really changed him. And so she had talked to our legislators here in Arkansas, and then they contacted legislators in Washington who asked her to come for a hearing in Washington about these violent video games and the rap music and stuff, and or rock music, rap music, and how it was affecting our kids in school.
That was that
So
was a
Bob and
Senate that was a Senate subcommittee.
yes, it was Senate subcommittee, and I can't remember the lady in charge, but we'd all contacted her. We knew her. Kay Bailey Hutchinson was the Senate was the senator, And this was in 1998, of course. It was the summer of 1998. So Bob and Debbie and I went to Washington. We drove up there. She did her hearing. We were on the way back. We were 4 or 5 miles outside of Nashville on I-40, and I was driving, and I was driving down the road. We're all 70 miles an hour. Luckily, the road wasn't really heavily trafficked at that time on our side. And I saw this guy on an access ramp, and he wasn't pulled out parallel to us. He was actually, his car was perpendicular to the highway, like he was going to go across the road and over onto the other lanes. And instead, he pulled out and he turned into our lanes of traffic and started driving down the middle of the highway, the middle of the 2 lanes that we were on. And I was far enough back, I was watching him. And of course, at that time, I literally started praying and got back off of my accelerator and tried to get the brake, but not hard enough to cause us to roll or anything, and tried to scoot over into the median. And luckily enough, it was a fairly shallow median. And so as I'm pulling over, keep in mind, we're still going at a high rate of speed toward each other. And he hit us and he knocked off the side view mirror. He damaged the door, the right-hand door, tore off his bumper, and really shook us up and everything, and kept going. And as I looked in the rearview mirror very briefly, I saw him going down the road and cars pulling off on either side. It was like it was like a wave opening. This man was drunk. He never knew where he was. And I'll never forget that. I mean, you don't forget almost dying. And I kept, first thing I did, got out of the car, and I was praising God and telling him, this angel, and you can never convince me that there was not an angel in the car with us. I said, you need to give him an extra star, because I said, he really did a magnificent miracle for us. The trooper came along, and keep in mind, this was really before a lot of people had cell phones. It was 1998. And so I don't have any idea who called this trooper. I don't even know when he showed up. It was just, these things happen, and your perceptions are really off. And I know he told Bob, he said something like, I can't believe y'all made it through this. He said, this was a miracle. And it was such a miracle that Bob later got in the car and could drive the car back up on the road, and we went down and made it back to the house here in Jonesboro. But it was the scariest thing that's ever happened to me personally, because I'm absolutely convinced if God had not been with us, this guy would have killed us
And
head on.
what time of that was broad open daylight? I don't remember what time of day, but that was not nighttime or late at night or early in the morning. That was broad.
No, this was like 2:00 in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's no excuse for somebody to be driving totally drunk out of his mind at 2:00 in the afternoon. Why wasn't the guy at work?
He was an alcoholic, I'm sure.
Yes. I think anybody that gets that drunk is an alcoholic.
Right.
But there are other stories too that you have too.
Yeah. Bob has a story about seeing somebody drunk driving.
Well, I'll relate this one here in Jonesboro. A friend of mine were coming south on Stadium Boulevard, I believe it was, one Friday evening. We were going to Cracker Barrel to eat, and we were stopped at the red light on Nettleton and Caraway or Stadium. And here come this little black car. We were like 3 cars back. Here come this little black car around the right, past us, and then turned right down on Nettleton. And I just thought, yeah, there's some wild teenager there driving. And so we went on down, and we were kind of second or third car back at the next lap, but we were going to turn off to go to Cracker Barrel. And here come that car again. And it passed us on the right, went off the road and passed us on the right, and went through the driveway of the gas station there, and turned right on the street that we were going to turn on to, and then he turned into the Electric Cowboy. And so I followed him in there, and that guy got out of the vehicle. There was actually somebody with him. The passenger, he got out and walked up to the door or whatever. This guy had literally had to crawl out of his car.
Wow.
He couldn't step out of the car or whatever. He kind of fell out of the car, crawled out of the car. That's how drunk he was. Well, I went over to the Cracker Barrel, and I called the police and reported it. And so we ate and I was headed home. Got a call from the police, and they said, we'd like if you come up here and fill out a report on this guy. He crashed out over here by SU, and fortunately he didn't hit another car. He was a single car wreck. I guess he run off the road or whatever, and apparently didn't hurt him, because drunks so many times they don't get hurt. It's the other people who get hurt. And anyway, went up and filled out a report. But this guy, it was not late. It was it might have been 5 in the afternoon. And this guy was drunk as a skunk. He was so drunk he could not. I don't know. I don't know if he ever got out and actually went up to the door or not. But he basically fell out or crawled out of that car, and then he got back in it and went on, and he crashed out later on. And he could have very, very easily killed someone. So easily killed someone. And of course he went to court and that sort of thing. But and I had another situation real quick. Coming back from. Had a chance to go down and listen to Reagan speak in Atlanta, so we were coming back. I mean, another person this side of Memphis, we were in Arkansas, and probably West Memphis or on Marion or somewhere along there. Here, this car came around really, really fast and cut real close in front of us. And then as we were following that car, was going from side to side, ever far as it could go from one side of that road to the other, back and forth, back and forth. They had to be so drunk they didn't know what they were doing. And I think we stopped and called the police, but that by that time, no telling where we'd been. I don't know whatever happened to that person, but if it had been a single, not have been a divided highway, I'm sure he would kill somebody, and he may have anyway somewhere down the line. But it was not late at night, but it was at night. But that's 2 instances I've had myself, and I could tell you about others that I know of where they were not even worried, but somebody run off the road. They were not severe, serious thing, but they run off the road, knock down a fence or that sort of thing. They're out there all over. Matter of fact, I just remembered, right almost in my brother's doorway, a driveway, just a few hundred feet down, a young man got killed. It didn't kill him instantly. They airlifted him to Memphis, and he died over there, and he hit a tree, and there was beer can stuff spread for several feet out. He hit that thing so hard, these beer cans and things had knocked him out of the car, and they were spread out there, and he was killed right there, just a mile and a half from where I live.
Wow.
And so there's you could go on and on forever, I guess, about these. But Iris, you have another story about that, because I've got some here if you.
Well, I've got the one about because we hear so many times about people that are killed by drunk drivers. We don't always hear as much about people who suffer lifelong injuries. And so,
yeah, just real quick on that, this story about the first lady that you covered, it says not everyone who gets hit by a drunk driver dies. And of course, it shows that. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, her name was Erin Rollins, and this happened in 2014. It was like November 9th, and she was hit by a woman who was going the wrong way on the street, just like what almost happened to us, and who was so drunk she didn't know anything. And what happened, as far as the injuries she got, she had a shattered spine, a severed iliac artery, a lacerated liver, a fractured sternum, a nearly dissected rectus muscle, and that's the muscle that goes down the front of your body. That's where you get your abs. You dissect that, and you can cut somebody in half. She had holes in her bowels, her colon, and small intestine, and 7 broken bones. She went through a 7-hour laparotomy that left a 2-inch wide, 2-inch deep opening in her abdomen, and had even a longer surgery to put 2 rods in her back. 10 days later, she went tachycardic and almost died. They did bring her back, and she was only 29 years old. She didn't remember what happened, but these state troopers that came up on the wreck, and I've seen a picture of the wreck, and you wouldn't think anybody could live the way that car looked. It was like a tin can had been crumpled up. The firefighters came, and then they had a couple of state troopers who, one of them said he didn't think, he thought it would be full of fatalities there. Then when she gets to the emergency room, the state trooper comes in and tells her that she was hit head on by a wrong way drunk driver. He walked over to another bed next to her, and the woman who hit her was actually in that bed. And the trooper told her, he said, "Look to the woman on your right. That's the woman you hit. Do you understand what you did?" And then she continued to talk about how she was in the hospital a full month when they discharged her into rehab, she had to be there for 6 weeks. She had to learn to sit up, to walk with a walker and a harness. She had to learn to catheterize herself every 4 to 5 hours and clean and change her colostomy system. It took 2 weeks for her to even gain enough strength to transfer herself in and out of a wheelchair. So this drunk driver didn't kill her, but he took her life.
Yes.
Because the girl no longer really existed. The area she had been no longer existed. She lost her car, her job, her independence. She lost 2/3 of her hair after doctors prescribed a nerve blocker for pain that kept her bedridden. It was so bad. It ravaged her body and scarred her from her ribs to her groin, from the middle of her back to her tailbone, from her left rectus muscle around mid-back. That's where it almost cut her in half. 5.5 years after the crash, she could finally walk, but not for long distances. She couldn't run. She had to wear braces on her feet. Her ankles roll, and nerve pain still plagues her. She said she still has not recovered her bladder and bowel functions, and that was one of the worst problems, because that's a physical representation of what the person who made the choice to drive drunk did to her. But she forgave, through God, she forgave the drunk driver, who only got an 18-month sentence for what she did to this woman. And so the woman said she has moved on through the grace of God. And so now she advocates for others who have been treated the way she was. And you can see she will never be what she was before. And she was 29.
No,
And,
it's
and I know
terrible.
these two cases are maybe some of the most extreme, but there are how many more out there that are very serious? Maybe not quite this serious, but it damages the people for the rest of their life, and they can never be what they could have been without this.
Well, and also be psychologically too. It's not just the physical
Absolutely.
damage.
Yes, absolutely.
It's psychological damage that can be worse
Yeah,
in some ways than the physical
Yeah.
damage.
yeah,
And I think there probably are a huge number of people that are suffering lifelong injuries that weren't killed but are suffering continual lifelong injuries from drunk drivers. And it's inexcusable, absolutely inexcusable. And I think we do not punish enough. We've gotten where we do punish more than we did years ago, but I don't think we punish enough. I don't think if you drive drunk and they catch you, you need to spend some time in jail. I don't care whether you've hurt anybody or not. This is my opinion. I think immediately you are arrested for drunk driving, you spend
agree.
time in jail.
I
agree.
If you hurt somebody, you are going to spend more time in jail. And if you kill somebody, you never get out of jail.
Yeah, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. The penalties need to be stronger, and hopefully they will. I know the MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, have done a lot of good things in regard to this, but has not solved the problem, and so we need to take further action and deal with this problem more severely. This problem of alcohol, consuming alcohol. You know, this problem of people drinking and driving. Alcohol's already been bad, and this is just one aspect of it. There's, it affects everything. It can affect everything, as we dealt with a health issue before, you name it. But 150 years ago, there were no automobiles, so you didn't have this aspect of it. But it was still doing all kinds of damage. But that makes it even worse now when you've got mechanization. You've got these. I believe the Valdez, the guy who caused that Valdez.
Yeah, the ship that crashed and caused the worst oil in the
He
world.
was drunk, right? And so the mechanization makes it hold up, because I doubt that there were very many people. I'm sure that there were some, but few and far between, who, had a team of horses and would be drunk and run over somebody. I think that would have
Right.
been a rare thing, and now it's almost a common thing. What is it, 10,000 every year? That's
I read it was
killed.
19,000.
That's killed now, right?
Yeah.
10,000 is killed. Now that's not counting the injured. I don't know how many are injured.
Right, that doesn't count the
That does
injuries.
not count the injured. And so it's a crisis when you
But
consider
yet we
everything.
have
It's a crisis.
Yet we have city leaders and
Yes.
county leaders and state leaders who continue to not only allow this, to push it and promote it. Like we're in a dry county and our city council promotes it. They accept every alcohol permit that they're presented with, just about. As a matter of fact, I really cannot think of but one, I think, that was denied within, the recent memory. And that's inexcusable, because they know this information. They don't pay attention to it, or they dismiss it, or where they think, well, it doesn't happen to me, so I'm not responsible. It's the person who drives drunk that's responsible. I'm not. But yet they push this. You might consider, and they say, well, they don't push. Yes, they do. When you grant these permits and you don't have,
I think Iris is frozen up on us, but
Yeah, well, again, this, and that's happening locally here. And if these type of things are happening,
have to.
so you're back, Iris? I think she is. Okay.
Did you
Yeah.
finish your thought there, Iris?
I think so. It's good
Technology.
enough.
Okay.
There was one more I wanted to talk about before we tied everything together and tied it up. They said it was the worst drunk driving crash in American history. This was a story in 2018. It was 30 years after 27 died in the worst drunk driving crash. It was a school bus. So
Actually, it was a church outing. It wasn't a school bus. It was a school bus,
Yeah.
but it was a
yeah,
church outing.
it was a church
Church
outing.
outing, yes.
Of the 27 who died, 24 were children. And this one poor lady, she lost her husband. He burned up. He was one of the three adults. And she years later, she lost her son to a drunk driver. So that is so sad. And I just before we finish up today.
Well, I've got a couple others if we've got time.
Okay,
We'll have time.
you
A
go
couple others I
ahead.
wanna But this right here, there was 24 children and 3 adults, and then 34 others injured. So
Oh.
that everybody in that bus was impacted, and who knows how bad they were impacted. Certainly we know those that died were unbelievably impacted, and there's that many more. And that's just, and what can you say about something
I know
like that? It really.
it's heartbreaking.
Here's a story right here. This is back in 91, and this was from the Cabot, I believe it was, or somewhere down here. This is the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Anyways, test finds driver in 8 victim crash drunk, and 7 of those were children.
Oh my
And this
goodness.
guy they were riding with this guy, and he was drunk, and he killed 7 children. 8. I don't know if it killed him or not, but it was 8. And then here's another fiery crash near cities. This is in the Jonesboro Sun, and this claims 4. And so they don't just kill one; they kill multiples so many times. And
Bob, was that one? Bob, can you elaborate on that one that you just held up there, a fiery crash?
Yes.
Can you hold it up again?
There's a picture of it if you can see that.
Yeah.
Was that out on Old Highway
This
1?
was- let me see what this says here. 4 Poinsett County residents, including 2 children, and a teenager, died shortly after 6:30 Sunday evening when the car which they were riding was struck from behind and burst into flames south of Jonesboro. State Trooper Mark Steed said the 4 victims were trapped in the burning wreckage, so they suffered a horrifying
Bob?
death. Burning. Yes.
I know the person who hit them.
Do you really?
I actually taught, this was several years after I left that school, but I actually taught the person who hit and killed that family.
What year was that?
It would have been what year was the wreck?
This paper says is 1988.
Yeah, because I left that school in '80, and he was a significant problem at the time that
Yeah.
I had him. But when that happened, I read who the culprit was, and that was a student I'd actually had.
Wow.
Wow.
That's unbelievable. Well, here's one more. This one didn't happen, but this says Jonesboro bus narrowly avoids collision. This was back in 2001, and it said 21 JHS volleyball players and 2 adults were on that bus, and they had the driver was able to take the ditch to avoid being, I believe, hit head on by a drunk driver.
Wow.
So on it goes, and these are just a few of how
And
many.
a lot of these people, these drunks who hit these people, that's not the first time.
No.
That's not the first time they drove drunk, and a lot of them, it's not the first time they've had an accident drunk.
No. I'll tell you one story I read several years ago. This was not the same person that did, but this girl was riding with her boyfriend, and he was, I think they were high schoolers or something like that, and he had been drinking, and they had a wreck, and it severely injured her, and it took her a long time to get over it, the rehab and all that sort of thing. Then a few years later, she had become a nurse, and she was hit head on by a drunk driver, and he killed her. So she was involved in two, one, and the second one
Oh,
killed her.
wow.
And again, we could go on and on and on. This is no joking matter. This is severe. We have to do something about this.
It's a massacre, Bob. It's a
It is.
massacre.
It's a
Yeah.
massacre. And that's, like I said, this is one aspect. If you had nothing but this aspect right here, it would be bad enough. But then you got all this other stuff that we'll be covering later on. Folks, we have got to do something about it. We cannot, in good conscience, let this go on. And that's what we're about. We do plan on doing something about it.
And wanted to remind everyone, Bob and I went out to the Greene County Fair and met a lot of people, and we've been out to the ASU Farmers Market, and just about every person that we talked to has someone that has been affected by alcohol or is an alcoholic. We even had one doctor come up to us, and it just affects every socioeconomic status in that there could be.
I dare say that if you go out here and you walk down the street and talk to somebody, almost everyone, I use the word almost, everyone you talk to would have some relative. Many of them close, like these folks all either had a brother, a sister, a daughter, a mother, some real close relatives that were an alcoholic. That these people that you would meet, a majority of them would, and almost all of them, I go as far as say almost all of them would have some fairly close relative. It might be an uncle or aunt or something like that, but they would know somebody that's an alcoholic, and many of them are part of our family. And this is a real tragedy when the CDC estimates that, and this is unbelievable, 1 in 8 Americans, adult Americans, are considered, now this is an estimate by the CDC, considered alcoholics. That is again, unfathomable. That is a crisis. We have got to deal with this situation somewhere. We can't call ourselves civilized if we don't deal with this somewhere along the line.
Bob, don't forget they're not alcoholics anymore. They have an alcohol use disorder,
That's right.
because that sounds better.
Oh, it's
You can't call it what it is.
It's a disease, and explain to me how. Now, this is a disease, but this is the only disease that I know of that's promoted and people are encouraged to do things that would make this disease worse. Can somebody explain to me how that works?
What money? That's how it works.
I guess,
Money.
Yeah, I guess that would be the only explanation I could think of.
Well, I don't know what else to say after that, and just want to say, y'all tune back in next week, and we will have another show for you. And thank you for being here.
Yeah, and share your comments. If you've got it, your own experiences, share your comments. If you like what we say, fine. If you don't like what we say, tell us why.
And don't forget,
But yeah, we like comments.
We've got this free booklet for people that gives a lot of information that people need.
And put in the comments what some topics you want us to talk about. Let us know.
And that number to call in is 870-910-0464 if you want a copy of that booklet.
Well, until next time, we'll see you, and thank you for listening.